begin.
What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take NFL First Look podcast. This is week 2, 2019, and I am joined by the two OGs. First up, the triple OG. You can find him on Twitter at Patio Joe Ref. That is right. I am talking about Patio Joe. Joey, my man, how we doing?
Doing well, man. It's it's Wednesday. We're already in week 2. I'm on my way to Vegas on Friday, so I'm looking forward to this week.
Yeah, I bet. Very, very exciting. All right, off to Vegas. You're gonna be there through the weekend, right? So you'll be there Sunday.
Yeah.
Joey's gonna.
Well, we leave Sunday afternoon, so I won't be able to watch the game, unfortunately. That would have made it a perfect week.
Yeah. That would be perfect. We are also joined by the GOAT, the true OG, Mr. Paulie D. You could find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. 8 Ds. Paulie, what's happening, bro?
Not much, bro. Looking forward to week 2, Sunday. NFL is just glorious. I could talk about it all day, every day. Yeah. And, in the beginning, like, nobody really knows what to expect, what's going to happen. That's when there's, like, the most edge. It's interesting to, like, break this stuff down and see what you got right, see what you got wrong from the weeks before. Like, this is a good, interesting week with a couple of major injury implications that are going to dictate a lot of ownership and stuff. We're going to do what we do.
We're going to do it then. We're going to do it big then. Famous words by Jameis Winston. I named that in my other fantasy league, the one I did with my family and friends. I have Jameis Winston because I'm an asshole like that, and I changed it. That's when I just put my team name. We're going to do it then. We're going to do it big then. No spaces, though. Just capitalize the words in between so that people, you understand. Anyway, yeah, week 1 was a lot of fun. I definitely wish I would have done a little bit better than I ended up. Did okay, but a couple key things that I think were kind of right in front of us, we kind of brushed to the side. And there were definitely some surprises, and there, like there were some disappointments. Like Foles got hurt, that ruined like anybody that took a shot on that game in general. It kind of ruined you. It's just, I thought it was a pretty interesting week 1. And the other thing is, because some of the blowouts that we've had and some of the different things that went down in week 1, we may not have like a full clear picture of what they look like. Like the Ravens, for instance, Mark Ingram, if you look at the snaps, if you look at everything else, like it doesn't look great as far as how many touches he got, how often he was on the field. But that's because by the second quarter, that game was blown out. And it was just like, they chose to get Edwards some time. Yeah. Oh, did he get injured, Mark Ingram?
Yeah, not like, I don't think it's going to hold him out of this week, but he's got a Q tag next to his name right now.
It's just he was limited in practice. That's all it says. He has a shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing big deal. They say there's nothing that's going to hamper him for the game.
Okay, fair enough. So this week, fellas, we're going to talk about week 2. We're going to do a little bit differently. Instead of me, instead of doing the cash game build in the beginning, we're just going to build a cash team at the end and just kind of go through the slate, get an idea for what we're looking at first, and then from there we'll build a team just to give us a better idea of, talk it out a little bit, figure some shit out, and then I'll put you on the spot later. So just going position by position. Joe, I'm going to start with you. Give me like the cash game guys you're kind of considering, just, and then talk to me about a couple tournament pivots that you're kind of looking at going into week 2.
It's quarterback, right?
Quarterback, my bad.
Yeah, quarterback. Yeah.
Quarterback.
Yeah, and I'll guys, just to let you know, guys, I'm going to stick more to FanDuel, and probably stick more to DK. But in quarterback on Sunday, there's pretty much options at the top. There's a couple in the mid tier that you could go after, and then there is 1 or 2 that you can go on at the bottom. Starting at the bottom and going to the top. Let's start off with Derek Carr, because I think he's going to be the most polarizing quarterback this week. People are going to want to play him. He's 6,600 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I think he's like 5,100 or 5,300. Basically, all the Raiders are mispriced a little bit just because the pricing came out on Sunday night before they played on Monday. So the Raiders will be somewhat chalky on Sunday. So first of all, say that over a few times before you want to go all in on the Raiders. But It is a little crazy, but they are in a really good spot against the Chiefs, and it should be an up-tempo game. So Carr is definitely in consideration. Even if you think the Raiders might get blown out, you got garbage time production. He's so cheap that to make value, to make 3x is it has a good chance. Moving up a little bit, another guy I think you could look at is Josh Allen against the Giants. He might be more of a GBP play because he did have some turnovers, but the floor that he gives you with 54 average rushing yards since he's become a starter, that's almost an extra touchdown points a game. He has a really nice floor. Probably more of a DK play than on FanDuel. He's 7,500 on FanDuel. If I was going to do that, I'd probably just go up a few dollars. Another guy you could look for on DK, I think, is Ben Roethlisberger. His price is a little bit down at 5,800, and he's 7,600 on FanDuel. So his price is a little bit lower. You get Ben at home. We know he plays a hell of a lot better at home. The Seahawks defense is not very good at all. So I think Ben is pretty safe on Sunday. And then Brady, obviously, with especially the Brown plays, they're going to want to show off a little bit. But I just don't know what his ceiling might be, just because they might stop and just run the ball. And then the two up top, Patrick Mahomes obviously up top. I don't mind. You can always go with the best quarterback in the game right now if you want and get the most points, but he's 9K. If you want to go right below it, I think might be the popular guy, if you're going to pay up, would be Lamar Jackson on FanDuel. It's 8,200. He's really safe going up against the Arizona Cardinals, bad defense at home, and you could just see them lighting them up again and really making a statement to the league.
Dropping sevens on him, Joe. Paulie, talk to me on your thoughts. You're more on DraftKings, obviously. What's your perspective? Give me like a couple cash game options and talk to me about who you have your eye on in tournaments.
Yeah, so cash games, I really don't know who the quarterback is going to end up being. The quarterback's never like very highly owned anyway. Like maybe a few guys will be, but it's going to depend on some of the injuries and what value that opens up. Like, I think Mahomes is the optimal what people want to plug in there, but he's 7.5 on DraftKings. That's a lot. So I don't know if in cash he'll like garner the ownership. If people need the money, then they'll come off of him. If the money is necessary, if the cash build requires you to pay down at quarterback, I do kind of think Derek Carr at 5-1 will end up becoming that guy. And then if it's just like a little bit of money, like you can't afford Mahomes, then I do think Lamar Jackson is another safe option, another potential blowout game at home. So those are kind of the three at each price level that for cash that I think will be considered. There's other guys I like.
Guy for the cash game consideration for you for DraftKings.
Okay.
Jared Goff.
Okay.
5,900 at home against the Saints.
Yep.
I could see that.
He's the next one.
He's the next one. He's the
next one. Saints have a good run D.
Yes.
So we'll
Saints
see
got that good D.
Like what
they got that good D.
Run D. Good run D.
Good run D.
I got the good D. Saints got good run D.
You got 8 good Ds, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going by the tournaments.
I think that's where you're living in tournaments, but
in cash.
In cash. And I really like Lamar Jackson once again, especially if like Ingram has any sign of like being slowed down. He only ran the ball 3 times against Miami. I don't think Arizona's anywhere going to be as bad as Miami, so like they may force Baltimore to do a few more things this game, and they're going to put up points. Like both these teams play fast, and I just expect a lot of points here. So I like him in both formats. There's a bunch of quarterbacks that I do like. I'm not going to talk about too many, but I think Tom Brady is obviously one that like we need to consider this week. Like they're projected for like 33.5 points. Right. It's the same team that Baltimore just put 59 up against. He's got Antonio Brown. He's going to want to get a touchdown. He's probably going to try to get one to Josh Gordon. Like, it's hard not to envision him. Maybe he won't get the yards because he'll be efficient, but at least getting 3 or more touchdowns with the potential for more. He's a guy that I'm interested in also. And Miami actually was like the 3rd highest paced team, and New England was the 4th looking at situation neutrals. on top of the high spread, we might have two teams that are just playing fast as well.
That's interesting. Let's talk about Brady for a quick second. I think that Lamar Jackson smashed the onslaught smashed. Harbaugh ran that score up. He was week 1. He wanted his team to go. He wasn't. He just ran it up. And I don't know if did the Patriots. I know it seems like they ran the score up because the score was so by the time it ended, but it did seem like towards the end the Patriots showed a little mercy. Once the game was out of hand, they started running the ball. So I'm curious to see because Brady's the big one. It seems like the obvious just onslaught the Patriots at this point. That just seems to be right. Isn't it
It's you're just worried about the running game getting it,
right?
Not him.
Right. But everything from a defense perspective, everything. It's Joe. What are your thoughts on Brady? And then we'll move it over to running backs.
Yeah, I like Brady. I mean, I brought him up. I just said I just don't know if there's going to be a ceiling. Right. I just feel like they're going to be running the ball in the third or fourth quarter.
Right.
He might be in the game, but I just don't think they're going to be passing to the point where if those other quarterbacks are in a little bit shootout games, they're gonna outscore them, especially point per dollar.
Yeah, no, I get it. The one quarterback I think you guys both mentioned him, but on DraftKings, my tournament guy that I have my eyes on right now is Big Ben, man. I think that's something that all three of us have a little interest in. I think he's been a little bit better than what we know. We expect him to be better. We know he's got home and road splits. Everything's kind of in his favor. Much better matchup. He's at home. That's huge for him. I'm expecting a big game from the Steelers in general. And the Bengals had no problem moving that ball in Seattle. So that was, something else. Let's move it over to running backs. Paulie, I'm kicking it to you first this time for DraftKings. Again, give me a couple cashy options and then talk to me who you're looking at in tournaments.
Yes. So I think there's two clear cash game options. Josh Jacobs, as Joey mentioned, the pricing was already out before he had 2 touchdowns in a big game. It's the Chiefs. They were terrible against the run last year. And he's $5K or so. It's way too cheap with a team with limited options. So he's kind of obvious. And then I think Kamara in that, potential shootout game, their main weapon on the ground. We just saw what McCaffrey did to the Rams defense last week. And he's 8-1. He's going to get, if they fall behind, he's going to get so much pass game work. And if they're ahead, it's probably because he had a couple big runs. So I think he's going to be extremely highly owned in cash, and for good reason. I think he's a very good play. The rest of I think this is one of the thinner positions on the week. There's not a ton of guys. Last week we had option all over the slate. This week I don't love a ton. I do like Saquon up at the top against the Bills. Le'Veon Bell had a good game, and I think at this point, Saquon is slightly stronger, slightly faster, and probably going to get a little bit more touches if the Giants are in the game, which I think they will be. So, Saquon and Kamara at the top, I like quite a bit. And then, there's a cheap guy that I got my eye on, Chris Thompson of the Redskins. We already know that the rookie Geis is going to be out. AP got a it didn't dress or whatever, a DNP week 1, but he's going to come in and fill the lead back role. But they're playing the Cowboys. They should be behind. I think Thompson got 10 targets, caught 7 of them, ended up around 14, 15 points without a touchdown. And they led most of that game against the Eagles. I expect them to be behind against Cowboys. Geis is not there. AP won't get anything in the pass game. And you got Chris Thompson under 4K. Who could really open things up in your lineup that I have a lot of interest in. And Sony Michel, we talked about the Patriots, we expect a similar routing like the Ravens did. They should be running the ball the whole second half, and Michel should just get a ton of carries and probably a couple scores. So I like him as well.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Joey, talk to me from a FanDuel perspective. Same thing, cash, GPPs, what are you looking at?
Yeah. It's funny. Before I go, when you talked about Sony Michel, I could just see myself. I could just see it being a Rex Burkhead week. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm always hesitant playing.
Here's one thing I'll say. Rex Burkhead is coming off of an injury, right? So if that game got out of hand between James White Rex Burkhead and Sonny Michel, the young guy. Who do you think is most likely? I'm asking. I don't know the answer to this. I'm just asking your guys.
I think it's Burkhead.
Do you think they'd rather use Burkhead in garbage time? Initially, I would have said the same thing, except I was impressed with how much they were using Burkhead right out the gate. They were treating him like it was a true 3-man rotation. And so, like, that made me pause for a second. Because it's interesting you say that, because that's the thing. Of course, you're going to want a running back from New England, but which one? And, like, I kind of felt like maybe it'd be Michel since he's young. They figure, like, we can put the miles on this kid. Because Michel didn't get a ton, he didn't get a ton of opportunities in that Steeler game. It was like it was pretty.
And you could be right, Joe. Like,
it's possible.
Burkhead got 45% of the snaps.
Yeah.
Michel only got 32.
Yeah, no, that's true.
White got 37.
That's true.
Michel has I feel as the Patriots are going to go this year, I feel like Michel has the injury history with his knee ever since college. And last year I had him on my seasonal fantasy team. So I had him all year and I watched him. And I feel like they're going to like slowly build him up as the season goes on to where when the playoffs come, then they're going to want him to be getting the majority of the carries. But right now, I mean, we look at the Patriots schedule, they don't need him.
Yeah.
They really don't until they play the Ravens.
And they needed Antonio Brown too.
But back to my cash game options, for me on FanDuel, I feel like there's some obvious plays. Josh Jacobs, I feel like out of all the Raiders is like my favorite one to play. So he's probably in my core. You just know that he's going to be given the rock, and anytime, at least in the beginning, they're going to want to keep the game close. They're going to want to try and run the ball with Jacobs, so he's probably going to eat some in the beginning. And at 6,500, he has a nice floor. I agree with Kamara up top, but I feel like I would sort of lean to Barkley I have a feeling Barkley at home. Again, their best way to beat the Bills is just to lean on him, especially if Sterling Shepard is out with a concussion, which means Barkley might be used just a little bit more than he normally is. But I think it's basically splitting hairs with those two. But the other guy I think in cash, I think you could use that right now I have in my cash lineup is Derrick Henry at 7,500 going against the Colts at home. Just unleash him. He had a big pass, a big receiving touchdown last week, as well as a rushing touchdown, 84 yards. Love him, especially just around his price. I think you also look at Eckler at the same price at 7,500 as a decent pivot. Eckler, you saw he's going to be involved in the offense. I think the Chargers are going to be playing from behind too on Sunday, or it's going to be close, just like it was in the first year. So they're going to lean on Eckler a little bit more. And then Jacobs is obviously the obvious play, what I said. And then I think you can also, these are probably more GBP plays, but Matt Breida is going to get the start now. They're going to work in Mostert, but you just don't know. Breida is very fragile. He's been hurt so many times during the games last year. You just don't know. That's why I'm moving more to a GPP option. And then the other guy at just $100 more in a decent matchup is Devin Singletary, another good GPP low option if you're paying down in a great matchup against the Giants. We saw his usage was okay, and you just feel like it's going to go up. Paulie, I have a question for you. Where touchdowns are dependent on FanDuel, would you have any interest for Malcolm Brown at 5,500 in GPPs?
Oof, man. Like it's so hard for me to believe that they're going to go with him on the goal line the whole year. Like, that really shocked me that Gurley wasn't the goal line back. And then he did well and scored 2 times in it.
I have another question for you before you think, because I have a question to say that. So
I would say, like, I probably don't go there, but it's not, I never played like Frank Gore, ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like those kind of guys because I feel like their ceilings are limited.
Mm-hmm. So then now on FanDuel, Gurley's price is pretty good. It's $7,000.
Yep.
He's 7.
How do you feel? I mean, he got 100 yards last week.
I know, and they held him down in the first half, and in the second half he looked good. Like, he might be able to bust a 13-yard touchdown run as well. And I just feel like he looks so good that they may go back to him in the goal line in close games, and as he continues to look really good, I'd be willing to take shots on him too. Yeah, I really would. I'd be willing to take shots on him for sure.
It's easier for me to accept that on DraftKings with Gurley, right? Because
his price is more expensive on DK. That's why I think he's a better price on FanDuel.
I think he's $7K on DraftKings also.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Yeah, he's $7K, so he's really cheap on DraftKings. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can't do it on FanDuel. I'm just saying on DraftKings, I feel a little more comfortable because if he doesn't get that red zone usage, at least I have a shot that he's going to get a 100-yard bonus. I'm still alive. On FanDuel, it's like the touchdown. That's the whole thing we don't know. But I agree with you guys. I think I do like Gurley this week in tournaments. I think that the plan is in competitive games, maybe they felt like they didn't necessarily need him. They were trying to under the radar, and they barely won that game. So maybe they realized, all right, we fucked up. We should be using Gurley in the best spots. But I don't know. But I will say that the thought of that sounds like FanDuel. I had to think about it. When you said it, Joe, and you asked, I was like, oh wow, FanDuel with touchdowns or everything. I was just kind of like, ooh.
Yeah, but we don't know.
Yeah,
but
it's interesting.
He wasn't involved in the pass game at all. The one target.
Right.
So
on FanDuel, he's the 13th most expensive running back. On DK, he's the 7th. So I feel like he's a better play on FanDuel.
Right. No, I got you.
I like the Singletary call though. I was really impressed. They threw to him 6 times, only gave him 4 carries, but he went for 70 yards. He had 3 plays over 20 yards, and looked really quick on the field. I do like him this week. I think he could be sneaky, and he impressed me. And the Giants are terrible at run D, so I do like that.
Interesting. I will say this. I think we talked about Ben Roethlisberger. Assuming that Connor does play, I know he's been a little ill. Assuming he's going to suit up on Sunday. Even though I thought Seattle did a very good job against the run game of the Bengals, if I do end up really heavy on the Pittsburgh passing game, I will have some shares of James Conner because I feel like something's going to happen. I feel like the Steelers are going to put up points. But at the same time, the correlation of home favorites, home favorites and running backs. So it's it wouldn't totally surprise me if maybe Pittsburgh was able to get some turnovers and Connor got a lot of easy situations like balls in the red zone, things like that. So even though that's something,
would you put Connor in a stack with Roethlisberger?
Absolutely. And that's kind of the thing. If you're not doing that and you want to do a triple stack, then if it's not Connor, then who? It's then it gets a little weird. It's Moncrief, Vance McDonald, and some of these dudes.
Depends on Juju.
It depends on Juju, right. Assuming that he plays, he was limited today as well with his toe, but if he's out, then I mean Connor is almost a must at that point. Just based off usage, even if he's not efficient, you got to he almost becomes the play at that point because now you're worried about who else Ben's gonna throw to. So I guess
okay, but. This Jalen Samuels thing, the usage was almost 50-50. Did I read that correctly?
No, he got 2 carries and 2 targets, Jalen Samuels.
Are you sure?
I'm looking at it on, a website. I think so.
All right.
2 targets, 2 carries for Jalen Samuels.
All right. I was wrong.
I'll check the snaps.
Snappy snaps.
No, it was clearly Connor.
All right.
Connor got 4 targets and I want to say 16 carries.
He had 10. I think it's 10.
The snaps look close though.
The snaps.
46% for Connor, 32% for Samuels.
It's interesting that they had Samuels on the field for. Well, you know what though? That game did get out of hand, so there could have been. In the second,
They were prone.
Yeah. And also, there was garbage time at the end there. I wouldn't be surprised if Connor just didn't need him. But anyway. Let's move it over to wide receivers. Joe, I'm going to start with you again. Talk to me about, again, cash tournament. The receivers, obviously, there's different tiers, different levels. So, what are you looking at?
Yeah, with receiver this week, I think it's a little bit more difficult than last week, but I still think that there's some obvious plays. I think if you don't go with Kamara and cash, then the play would be Michael Thomas up top at 8,500. He's the guy I would pay up for. D-Hop is great, but he's 9K, and I would rather pick on the DBs of the Rams instead of the the DBs of the Jags, even though they did get beat last week. I think Hopkins is a great GPP play, but you're going to have to find some sort of, build. I think if you went with Carr and Cash or something like that, maybe then you can go with D-Hop. But Michael Thomas is probably the guy up top that I would like. We already spoke about Juju in a decent spot. I'm not too sure about him. Antonio Brown's going to be the question of the week. If he plays, I just don't know. I think he's good for a touchdown, but I don't think a huge ceiling game. The guy that kind of popped out to me was T.Y. Hilton last week. We thought he was going to get down, and then look what he did. And he had a great game, 9 targets, 8 receptions, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns against Casey Hayward and the Chargers pass D. So he's going up against Tennessee, which I don't think is very good. So I think he's a decent matchup. And then
tell that to what's his name? Baker Mayfield.
Don't even get me started on the Browns. They're playing Monday night.
I'll be at the game, bro. I'll be there.
I know.
I'll be there.
I hope that the Jets win.
Hell yeah.
Keep them down.
Let's go.
I think probably the cash game, for on FanDuel, the absolute lock is probably Tyler Boyd with the Bengals. Going up probably against Quan Williams in the slot, the Niners. He had 11 targets and 8 receptions, 60 yards last week. He gets in the end zone. It's great. So I feel like Tyler Boyd is probably going to be the highest owned guy on FanDuel, and then probably the guy right below him, Tyrell Williams. If you want another Raider, he's going to be the obvious guy to slide in there. I watched Tyrell Williams for years as a Chargers, and it's hard for me to go there. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just going to all of a sudden be, the man, because the Chargers have had times where Keenan Allen's been hurt and Tyrell Williams has been the guy, and he's gone away where he gets like 2 targets and then Rivers just never went to him. So I realize that there's not very many people in Oakland. So I understand the argument, and he's a good price, but like I said, I've watched Tyrell Williams his whole career in with the Chargers. So just maybe just a little bit, pause. That's why I like Jacobs more than him and stuff like that. And then a couple guys, the GPP options down below, I think are really good to look at. We got this guy McLaurin that everybody's talking about for the Skins, going to be in a probably behind again, so he played 93% of the snaps, so I like that. Dante Moncrief, I don't mind going back to that well. If I was going with a receiver, I don't think very many people will go to him. He's got a great price. He had like 4 drops, but he had 10 targets. Today came out in the media, probably like a vote of confidence from Ben saying he still believes in him and stuff like that. So I feel like I would go back to him in GPPs. Maybe a cash game would be Cole Beasley at $5K. I don't mind him. And then for a GPP throw, I don't mind in that Chiefs game, Mecole Hardman at 4,800.
Bet you do like Hardman.
Mm-hmm.
Paulie D, talk to me about receivers. Them receivers.
You got to be a Hardman if you're going to fist her.
That's it. And you'll never get to nail her. If you, I don't know. Fuck that. That's Joey's thing. That's Joey's thing. I can't. No, it's not. I love when you do it, Joe. I should have just kicked it back. What are we talking about? Receivers, Paulie.
Receivers there. So yeah, I love Michael Thomas up top. Going to be after the debate whether to play him and Kamara in cash. I think Kamara is the one you want most, but I think playing both is viable as well. I like what you said about Tyrell. Like, you take away his touchdown and it's really not that great of a game. I don't know if he's like this lock, great chalk play, but he is very cheap. And they played from ahead against the Broncos. They're going to be playing from behind against the Chiefs, fast paced. Like, he should get more opportunities. So, in cash, he's a good play. Maybe you get underweight on him in tournaments. Then I agree with you, Joey. Like, I think it's either one, not for cash, but just receivers. I like either one of the Bengals receivers, Ross, who, got like double-digit targets, 2 touchdowns, huge game, or Boyd. Like, one of the two, I think, will be on most of my teams, just where they're priced and the opponent, how they looked on offense, all that. there's a chance that their running back misses. So more pass game, and even they really weren't down in that game till the end. Like they were just throwing. That's what their offense is going to be, I think, especially in competitive games. So I definitely want a Bengal. We'll have to pay attention to Seattle. Like Lockett didn't practice today. If he doesn't play, then DK Metcalf got a ton of work and looked pretty good. He'll become very popular at 4-3. John Brown, I'm going to go right back there. Like he's the number one guy in Buffalo. He's going to get 10 targets a game. I expect him to be in a lot of close games, and he's a deep threat, and his quarterback can throw the deep ball, and the Giants are just god awful. Like they got smoked by 2 receivers on the Cowboys. So going to go right back to John Brown. Don't think he'll even be that popular again. Really like pairing him with Allen as a solo play as well. And then, I don't know. There's a bunch. I'll say Sammy Watkins, though. No Tyreek Hill. Oakland Raiders defense. He just went off against the Jags. 7-2. Just really like after Kelsey, they don't have a ton of proven weapons. You got DeMarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman. Hardman did do well in the preseason. But I think Watkins is the guy you really want to play, especially if you're playing Mahomes.
Yeah, I was just going to ask your guys' thoughts on the Kansas City situation with Tyreek Hill out. I understand that his role specifically is going to be split amongst 2 players. So, like, you're not really going to know. It's just going to be kind of random, I guess, or hot hand kind of deal. But I would assume Sammy Watkins is going to remain in his role, except maybe now he's the primary target instead of the secondary target. And maybe Kelsey gets a boost. But, like, how do you guys think that's going to impact that situation? It's like a game everybody's going to want. It's Mahomes, but, like, who do you stack him with?
Both.
Like,
yeah.
Both as in
Watkins and Kelsey.
Okay. Yeah, Watkins, Kelsey.
A receiver and Kelsey.
Yeah.
Even I prefer Watkins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with that.
I agree. I think you can go back to Kelsey. I think people might shy away from Kelsey, especially if they are going to go with Mahomes and then, Watkins and already paying up. So I think Kelsey is in a great spot because he didn't bust, but he just didn't have what everybody thought, so he did all right. My question to both of you is, what receivers are you picking in that Rams game? Which one do you like of the Rams?
From the Rams side?
I got a guy.
I honestly got to look into the targets and snaps a little bit more, but I know Cooper Kupp was like more involved than I thought he would.
Mm-hmm. And he looks great, by the way.
And then I got to look.
He came back even
and I got to look
faster.
at matchups.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm thinking Cooper Kupp would be like the first guy, but if Woods ran a lot out of the slot, I'm good with that too. Like you want to target the slot receiver against the Saints because they have good outside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't mind Cooks this week too. I think he flies under the radar.
Former
little
team.
Revenge.
He didn't do much last week too. Yeah.
Some salty balls.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He had 2 receptions for 39 yards. People are going to go to Woods and Kupp way before. I mean, Kupp on FanDuel is less than Cooks, and Woods is more. So I just think like he's just going to be forgotten in that game. Sort of like he's the one that can catch that 80-yard bomb. All the other guys usually pretty much have to break it. And then let me ask you this, Paulie. Like on FanDuel, John Brown's 6,300 and Beasley is 5K. In that game, like to me, I feel like Beasley is a better point per dollar.
I think Beasley's a better DraftKings play because he could get peppered with targets.
Yeah,
but Brown's probably more likely to score a touchdown and have that one catch, 75 yards and a touchdown, and he's already made you value.
Yeah, I mean, no, we were good. I mean, we were on Brown last week, so we talked about that. We were both on that, so that was good. So, all right. I'm good.
Dropping sevens. I will say one other thing, Paul. You had mentioned the Seattle Seahawks situation with Lockett possibly being out. It is worth noting that Joe Hayden, the Steelers' number 1 cornerback, is hurt with a sprained AC joint, and he's doubtful for week 2. So if Lockett does play,
I love him.
Right? Yeah, that's my thing. I think that's how they hang around that game. So, loving it. We will go over to tight ends. Yeah, it's always weird when you look at the list because I'm always looking at the positions on the DraftKings site, and then it's like receiver. Anyway, tight ends. Paulie, Starting with you, bro. What are you thinking?
So for cash, it looks like again it's going to be a money thing. If you got money, people will go with Kelsey. If you don't, they'll probably stay in this game and go with Waller. And that's now like the fourth or fifth Raider we've talked about in cash. So like, I think 2 is acceptable. I don't know if more, but this game is going to be very popular for good reason. There's certainly blowout risk. Like, I know Oakland beat Denver, but we
But
expected that.
Denver,
Like,
it's like,
yeah, Denver's terrible.
Yeah.
I could see Oakland just getting romped here too. So like, it's something to think about a lot, how you want to approach that game in particular. But Delaney Walker, cheap and did well last week. If they are forced to throw, if they're from behind or even in the lead, they're going to use him. He's like their number 2 receiver. Evan Ingram, if Shepard's out, he may become more chalky for cash. The Bills have a good D, but he's just going to get too many targets. And even if Shepard's there, he's still a pretty solid play, likely to be on the receiving end of a touchdown if we throw for any. Mark Andrews, Baltimore, just love that game, the high pace, and he got peppered with targets. The guys like Hollywood Brown, who only played on 15% of snaps, may be more trappy, but Andrews, I feel like the volume is going to be there regardless of game flow, and he's very, very cheap still, so I do like him as well.
Drop 7s on him. Joey, tight ends.
Yeah, for me, I wrote down 3 guys. I like Waller, but I just feel like, kind of like Paulie said, there's just too many guys in cash then if you're going to go with Jacobs or Williams and Waller. It's just like, it's too much, so I feel like I would just fade him. And on DraftKings, then the obvious pivot is Delaney to me. And on FanDuel, it's almost like the same too. He's $500 more than Waller. So, he's $5,400. But to me, like, Evan Ingram, I just feel like is just going to get peppered again with targets. He's the one guy I wrote down. He's the offense right now. My only concern is that Buffalo is just going to key on him, but they do have Barkley, so they'll have to at least respect that, which will open things up for Ingram. And then Mark Andrews, to me, is one of the best plays on the whole slate when it comes to tight end. I love him. And then you can't forget about the guys up top. I just don't think we can get there this week. And then I guess you could be looking at to see who the Chargers might sign, but I don't think you want to play them because they don't have a tight end right now. They have Virgil Green, right? Yeah, $4K.
Yep.
They're only tight end, so you never know.
Tough. Going back to the point about Ingram, it's like a defense is never going to be able to fully focus on Ingram. You're just not. When you have a running back as good as Saquon Barkley, who's as diverse as Saquon Barkley, who's so hard to get down, who's so hard to plan for, like, you have to plan for him. Like, you have to use every extra body on that field for Saquon Barkley. So, like, I think that's a great point with Evan Ingram. We know the targets are going to be there. We know the volume's going to be there. The Bills definitely a much better defense, but at this point, I think we would both say that this game could end up it should be pretty close, right? The Giants and Bills. I think the Bills are really good defense, decent offensively, much better than last year. And then, the Giants, I think they showed some life too. They're not going to be pushovers this year. They got Saquon fucking Barkley, who's just like a freak. Yeah, I'm with it. Let's talk about some defenses, and then we'll go build us a cash game team. Paulie, I'm going to kick it to you. What defenses you looking at? Who's got that good D?
New England, I think, against Miami. Like, just onslaught that spot. I think the defense there is probably one of the best plays of all New England. Just could rack up points. Baltimore, I do respect Detroit's defense, but Baltimore's D is probably still better. Can give Kyler more trouble and turnovers and stuff. And then Houston against a rookie no-name quarterback at home. They have a good pass rush. Their defense is good. Could give that kid from Jaguars some trouble. Those are probably the 3 I like the most right now.
Dropping 7s. Joey, defenses. Lay 'em Homie.
It's kind of hard not to get off all those three. I mean, they really nailed the three top defenses on FanDuel. I think you could probably just, one of those three. I think, let me ask you this, Paulie. Like, we talked about, like, their woes on defense, but, like, if you had to pay down, do the Steelers tempt you at all?
Man, Russ does not throw many interceptions. Like, I think I'd probably be able to find something better, but I do like the Steelers D. I'm not convinced that like they're good enough to like blow out Russ Wilson, whoever he has with him. Like I just expect that game to be close, and Russ doesn't make mistakes. He's one of the last quarterbacks I want to target. Like he definitely throws among the least in the NFL in terms of interception.
Okay, two other Ds I want to ask you guys about. The Green Bay Packers against Minnesota. Cousins only threw 10 times. It could be a very ugly game. And then either one of these two, the Broncos or the Bears.
The Broncos, I did write down. The Bears didn't impress me. I think I like the Bears as well. Don't think I'd use Green Bay if a team's not going to throw. Like, if you're only throwing 10 times, there's not much opportunity for sacks or interceptions. That's like how you're going to do most of your scoring. Yeah, it could be low scoring, but I don't think I go to Green Bay against Minnesota for those reasons. But the either one of those two in the Chicago-Denver game, I don't mind.
I agree.
Who do you prefer?
Denver or
Chicago?
Chicago.
Okay.
I'll say this, like I agree with you. I think those are my two favorite like tournament defenses, I guess, in terms of like anybody who's a little bit cheaper. I think they're a little cheaper, right? The Broncos are like 2.7. I know that. Oh, the Bears are most expensive. So I guess the Broncos I'm getting some value from. I feel like I know they look terrible against Carr, but they obviously have a large home field advantage with the altitude. So and the Bears offense, like let's be real, at home against the Packers, they did not look good. Like Trubisky looked like shit. We don't want to overreact. They've had 10 days to prepare. Keep that in mind. They were on Thursday night, so they had an extra couple days to prepare for this game. But drop Sams. That's what I say, literally. All right, that's cool. Let's do some. We'll do some. We're gonna build a cash team. That's what we're gonna do. I got DraftKings pulled up right here. We're gonna do just a DraftKings quick team. We're just gonna throw it together. I'm gonna kick it to you, Paulie, for cash game quarterback, and then we're gonna see if Joe agrees or if Joe wants to argue for someone else. Who are we punching in at quarterback?
We're going DK, right?
DK, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
DK. That's fine. I'd say we come back to quarterback. I really don't know yet. We'll see like how much money the build kind of.
I agree.
Okay, so skip. How about running back? Want to start running back? I think you both agree. Yeah,
I think you put Jacobs in the Raiders, and I think you put in Kamara. Those are two that I think are like kind of for sure for cash.
Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, let's do
Kamara and Jacobs. So Josh Jacobs, Kamara.
Yeah.
Wide receiver. Is there a particular stud receiver you want to try to jam up in here?
I mean, the only guy since we're going to go with Kamara, I don't want to go with
Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas.
Sammy Watkins.
Let's see here. Let me get the receivers up.
If Mike Williams is out, like Keenan Allen, I think becomes interesting.
That's true, and that he's trending more towards not playing too. I will say that. Yeah, tough. I think probably Boyd would be the guy at 6,500 that I would probably want to lock in cash. But
I like him too. I'm all right with that.
I'm good with that. We'll plug him in for now and just see. Boyd 6,500 volume play on DraftKings. All right, so we still got two receiver spots. I'm assuming we're gonna need like a value guy to put in here at least temporarily.
Yeah, I mean, I think we go with Tyrell, and I think like if like Josh Jacobs does well, then that means the Raiders probably did well. Like I think it's good to get your like Raider exposure in cash and then get underweight on them in tournaments. So like I think we do just put Tyrell, who's going to be very popular and going to go with the block and cheap and value.
And then we conversely we should at least right now at least start with maybe Delaney Walker at tight end instead of paying up, or do you want to maybe try and pay up at tight end?
Well, it's getting interesting.
I don't know where we're at.
It's getting interesting because at this point we have 2 Raiders in cash. So if you've gone this far,
You can't go Waller.
like you feel like I agree, you can't go Waller, but you feel like you want somebody from Kansas City at this point. Like do we plug Watkins in the third wide receiver spot, or do we go for Kelsey and just find another receiver that's like affordable?
CK, put Houston's D in and tell me how much money we got.
Texans, where are you?
Like
2800.
$3K.
Wow, that's a good price. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, okay. So we got $58.50 per position for a tight end, wide receiver, flex, quarterback.
Okay. Kelsey's expensive, but we can try to get him in. Like I do agree. I want somebody from KC, and it's either Kelsey or
Watkins, or you try to get Mahomes and just try to get your exposure that way, right?
Yeah. Doesn't seem like we're gonna have that kind of money.
Definitely not.
So and the thing is that they're only $100 off.
So
yeah,
each other. So it's basically we have to pick
one of those guys. And
what'd you say?
I said we gotta pick one of those guys and make it work, basically.
Yeah, we can't play both of them, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But the question is, do we just not have any? Like, I feel like we should, but if it's gonna fuck up the rest of the team, then do we have to? You know what I'm saying? Except that.
I mean,
no, we're fine. You know what? No, we're fine.
Put in Kelsey.
We're fine, guys. Listen.
All right, what you got?
We have lock in Kelsey, and then in our third wide receiver spot, lock in John Brown, 5,200.
He's not a cash game play.
You don't? Okay. Well, you love him.
I love him. Yes,
for
but
the JPP, yes.
You're killing me. You're killing me, Paulie. You're killing me, Smalls.
Killing me, Smalls.
No, but if you want to go something like that, I think you could go with like Larry Fitzgerald. He's very cheap, going to get a ton of targets.
How much is Fitzgerald?
Or your boy. I think he's like 4.8 Fitzgerald.
He's still down there?
Yeah.
It's a tough matchup on paper, but I'm with you. They're going to throw a lot, and he is clearly a part of the offense, like a big part of it. I can dig it. Is there anyone else? Maybe like a
Cooper Kupp. I think he's like 6'5".
He's 6.
Well, let me ask you guys this: Joe Mixon didn't practice on Wednesday. If he is out, is Gio become that like a guy you want to play in cash, or should we lock in Gio at the flex?
On DraftKings, yes.
Right, on DraftKings. So let's assume he's out, and I'll put Gio at the flex, and we can pick a receiver based off what we have left from there, which isn't going to be much. So we have 5,400, right? We have to fill a quarterback and a wide receiver.
Yeah, I think if you go Fitz, we'll have enough to get like Lamar Jackson.
Fitzgerald, 6,200.
No, I don't know.
Wow,
Russell
$500 short. Yeah. Fitzgerald.
You could go with you guys like the Rams quarterback.
Goff.
Or Ben at 58.
I think the Goff idea I feel a little better about, mainly because I think in tournaments that game is going to be like similar to the Raiders Chiefs. I think those are going to be the two most popular games, right? Chiefs Raiders and then New Orleans LA. So if we can get a little bit of exposure to that game too in our cash games, and then comfortably be able to kind of like play like the Steelers offense in tournaments and the Patriots and the Ravens and some of these other offenses in tournaments, and not have to worry, like we have our exposure in cash, I could live with that. So I kind of like the idea of at least getting Goff, so we have some, you know what I'm saying? Exposure here.
Let me ask you guys something though. Like playing Gio in the flex when we already have Boyd, do we want to do that too? Have the running back and the receiver?
That's a good point. I mean, it's a volume thing, really, right? Like they're both volume plays. We're assuming.
And then what about Chris Thompson then, 3,900? If this
He's
is
not a cash play at all. No.
You're gonna be down. Oh. He's gonna get targets.
You got me stuttering and shit. What about? Here's a question: do you guys think Cooper Kupp is a cash play?
How many targets did he get last week?
He got 10, I think.
10? Yes, he is.
So if we go down from Boyd to Kupp, if Joe was worried about the Bernard, too much exposure to Cincinnati, which I don't blame you, I'd be worried about that too. We now have 5,400 for a receiver. It leaves us with like Dede Westbrook. There's nobody else around him really, but Dede Westbrook I could live with. You could upgrade. What's that?
Defense.
Oh, true, and still go with like a Fitzgerald type.
Yeah.
Say Fitzgerald, upgrade your defense. You got 3,600 for D. We're 100 away from the Patriots, dude. Oh man, give me that. What are they smoking? That's what I want to know. But I mean, I guess we'll just plug in the Cowboys.
That's fine.
We'll plug in the Cowboys. That'll leave you 300 on the table, and we'll go with Fitzgerald for now. But I mean, it's a first look team. Nobody's using this shit. This is just kind of like to get our gauge. So what we decided to do is we're heavily exposed to like the two most chalky games, which is I think a good thing. Like for right now, maybe we're a player or two off the right rhythm, but we've got Goff, Kamara, and Cooper Kupp all from that New Orleans Rams game, and then we have Josh Jacobs, Kelsey, what's his name, Williams. I'm with it, man. I think I'm cool with this as a first look squad.
Almost fading all the early games.
Yeah. Well, that's where we get with the tournaments.
Late games. There's only 3 late games this week.
I know.
I know.
It seems like
that kind of shows you though. That kind of shows you though what probably our ownership's going to be. If we're all going to these other 2 games, I think ownership's going to be there. A lot of people are going to want some of the Ravens,
right?
For sure,
right.
And I think you could have some of, the Cardinals. Who would you bring it back with besides Fitz? I mean, Christian Kirk had 12 targets also, and had
Kirk. Yep, either one, whichever one's going to be in the slot. Although I think Jimmy Smith did get hurt, so we got to check his status.
Yeah, Jimmy Smith.
Yeah, I just think it might be ugly early. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be ugly. I think the Ravens D is going to come out psyched. I mean, especially after last week,
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know.
And if Shepard gets ruled out, then Ingram becomes like the chalky cash tight end, and all of a sudden you have a lot of money. If like Gio isn't going to be the starter, like the what's his name does start, then like you got to upgrade from him. Like there's a couple major injury like pieces of news that we're going to be waiting on that are going to dictate some big ownership.
Oh, dude.
Okay, let me
I got the move here as far as the team goes.
Okay.
We come down. We simply upgrade Fitzgerald to Sammy Watkins and come down to Evan Ingram at tight end. Mm-hmm. And we now have 3,100 for a defense. We could stick with the defense we initially liked anyway, which was the Texans.
Houston.
Boom. That's the answer right there. That's the answer.
Yep.
Sideways sevens. Was somebody going to say something or no?
I was, but I forgot what I was going to say.
My bad. I knew it too. But all right. Let's do. We'll do the 2 touchdown calls and then we'll get up out of here. Joey, starting with you, man. Who's scoring 2 touchdowns this week?
Because remember, everybody, I nailed it last week.
You did, Delaney Walker.
Everybody know that. Did. Delaney Walker.
You did.
I'm going back to the tight end position again. 2 touchdowns. Mark Andrews. Lock it up.
Mark Andrews. Wow. That's a good one. I may regret saying this, but I smell fish on that one. Paulie, who's your 2 touchdowns?
I I fucking hate this guy, but Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown, if he even plays, we don't even know for sure that he's playing. Like even aside from these allegations, they were saying they weren't totally sure. It depends on how much of the offense he picked up.
If he plays, he's gonna get 2. He's living with Tom Brady. Like they're gonna want to start and get the positive narrative going on him. Right. You know, like if the better he plays, the more positive the narrative will get. But I just kind of assumed he's gonna play. But if not,
it's also possible he could be
added to the example.
We could find out he was guilty for shooting JFK too. By some you know what I'm saying? So you don't know by this time, you know. That's so true. Anything can happen at this point.
As a season-long owner of him, it's just been a wild ride. I'm
trade him.
Who the hell is going to want him now? I should have traded him when he first got signed.
The Patriots.
You know what I mean? Like,
Bills.
Like with the allegations, now they're talking about the NFL may put him on the exempt list. He'll get paid, but he can't play until it's resolved. Like
we didn't talk about that on Monday night. We should have talked about that a little bit. I don't like the whole thing went down this weekend with Antonio Brown.
I don't think it really happened. I thought it just came out like yesterday. Didn't these things just happen?
Yeah,
no. I'm just saying like the whole thing because we talked, we didn't know about it, and we came back on Monday, and we could have talked about like how he was on the Raiders on Saturday and how he got off the team, and then like he signed. You know, I texted Paulie, "What's going to happen?" He's like, "He ain't signing with anybody." An hour later, Patriots signed him. You know, and it's like
I was hoping the owners would be like better about it and be like, "Fuck this guy," like you know, like he just like walked out on his team, breached like you know, just didn't care about his contract. Like, who wants that? But
it's so crazy.
The Patriots were the obvious answer.
Yeah, his reaction that they filmed it. His reaction that, you know, when he was off the Raiders doesn't sound like a guy that lost $30 million. That wouldn't be my reaction if I lost $30 million, go running out.
What did the Raiders even do to him? Like, why was he so happy to get away from them? Like, they didn't do nothing.
Dude, I'll
he
tell
was
you.
The problem.
Exactly. You're right. You're completely right, Paulie. You know, Raiders, I'm not a Raider fan, and, you know, I don't give them their organization any props or whatever, but, dude, they did everything and anything, traded for him. They did everything they could for him. They were probably going to feature him. They wanted him there. They were going to change organization with him. They wanted him to be a face when they go to Vegas in a year. Yeah. You know, and he screwed it up. He completely screwed it up. And it's like to say that he didn't sort of want to get off the team and get on the Patriots. Like you knew it was going to happen after what happened with Randy Moss. You just smelled it. It just smells like it. And it just, to me, I feel like, in some ways, like that, this move is going to hurt the NFL if they wind up going like undefeated and winning Super. Like people are going to hate them. But then I also said this on Saturday night: if they happen to go like undefeated or like that, like people are going to get behind Mahomes and the Chiefs or like that like exciting team that people
anyone that can knock them off.
Yeah. Like they will be like the next American team, or like through the Cowboys. And people will cheer for the goddamn Cowboys if you know what I mean. Like it's just you hate it, but it's just the way it is, and it's I don't like it. Like parity is good in the NFL, but the Patriots, like this dynasty is, you know what I mean. Like it's got to end at some point. And
well, Brady's getting old. He don't have much left. Like it's coming to an end soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what. If I would play for the Raiders and eventually like demanded a trade or wasn't comfortable, it'd probably be because of Mark Davis's haircut. I mean, I don't understand how you could be that rich and look like that. How you that rich? You walk around looking like that, man. Like you know what I'm talking about.
He don't care about his hair. I do.
Have some fucking like decency for the other people. Like some people don't want to see that shit.
Care.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to see that shit, especially when I'm looking at my TV. Yo, if a motherfucker like that popped up in your living room, tell me that wouldn't scare the fuck out of you. You know, you wouldn't just assume it's some mega millionaire rich guy who could fucking, like you would be like, what the fuck is this crazy looking motherfucker in my house? It looks like he got into a fight with a pair of fucking scissors in a bowl. Either way, I get it. But this Antonio Brown shit is crazy. I know that we kind of moved on from that, but those are my 2 cents. I was looking at Mark Davis's hair, pictures of his hair, and it didn't squeeze in the comments at the appropriate time. So to make up for lost time, I just threw it in there. My 2 touchdown call is Juju Smith-Schuster. I think the Steelers bounce back in general. I am into them this week. And I think Juju has a big game, man. I used to like Juju on the road when AB was there. But now that AB is gone, he used to smash at home. So I think Juju's just going to slip right up in there. You know what I mean? pick it up where you left.
One thing on that game that I found that I didn't like was Pittsburgh was the second slowest team and Seattle was the seventh. Like, very, very slow paced teams.
That is disappointing.
Didn't like that.
That is disappointing. All right, that's gonna do it for the Week 2 First Look podcast. For Patio Joe, for Paulie D, myself, the entire Wise Take Nation. As always, good luck.
Peace.
Yeah.